name is Abby. I work in the Society and Business Lab, and I'm thrilled to welcome all of you guys today to the first Lunch and Learn of the year. The Society and Business Lab is a center within Marshall, and we are devoted to using business models to save the world and to supporting students like you who are interested in doing the same. So we have lots of programming for faculty, staff, undergraduates, graduate students. This Lunch and Learn today is part of an ongoing series. We have one once a month throughout the academic year. And I hope that you saw some of the flyers that were circulating about it. In addition, we have lots of different programs and resources for all of you guys, so I hope that you'll take the time to check out our website. Again, Society and Business Lab SBL, so that's marshall.usc.edu/SBL. I'd like to introduce two of our graduate fellows who will help us welcome Brian today.
Thanks, guys. My name is Todd Benchoof, and I have the exciting opportunity to introduce us to Brian Sirgutz. He's the president, speaking of checking out websites, he's the president of Causecast.org. It's an exciting interactive community where individuals, leaders, brands, and also celebrities can all get together to change the world.
And my name is Larson. I'm also one of the graduate students that's a fellow here. So Brian has worked as a partner with Sean Fanning from Napster and producer Michael Weinhorn, who worked with Korn, Red Hot Chili Peppers, in forming Non-Records. And that's one of the first labels to start the 360-degree model for artists. And then from 2000 to 2004, Brian was the president of Elementary Records, a label that was owned by Korn and its management company, The Firm. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Brian.
Thank you. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks for having me. It was interesting when I was approached to speak. I've only when I used to work in the music industry, I taught a couple classes for the NYU music school there in terms of business and my background in terms of what I did in the music industry. And all of a sudden, I find myself living in LA, running a website that supports nonprofits and leaders and activists and causes. And I'm like, how did I get from there to here? I was busy, on traveling the world and with rock and roll. But I wanted to just to give you a little bit background about myself, a little bit more. I come from my background is one where I grew up in New England, around within the boarding school structure. So it was like I was very claustrophobic in regards to the environment that my education was in. It was very much for hyper intelligent people that were just there to study. 8 people, 10 people in a class, and I always felt that there was just a little bit. I just felt that there was something more to learn about the world that wasn't just like in the classroom and being geared towards an Ivy League education. So when I went to New York University, I actually dropped out because I got a job to be the assistant agent to Guns N' Roses at 19. And it was really interesting how that happened because it was like, my friend who I lived in the building in New York City was like, my dad wants to meet you. He was Guns N' Roses agent. He also represented Paul McCartney. He just left this big agency called ICM, right? And ICM was this they represented everybody in the music industry. So he's like, all right, so my daughter tells me you want to work for me. Why? And I had no idea that this was being set up. So I was just like, well, I'm in communications, and I didn't know what I wanted to kind of do. And I was just starting in college, and was just trying to figure things out. So what turned out to be, just sort of an impromptu meeting turned out to be traveling the world at 19 with the band and acting as the assistant agent to Alex Cochin, who's the band's agent. His job was to actually go with the band and do what's called settlement. And settlement would be like, you go over the contract in the back room, there'd be about $100,000, $500,000 in cash from the door. There'd be the tour manager there with a suitcase attached to it with a handcuff. And you used to go over the contract, and you used to go back and forth and argue about who was paying for towels that night, or what the promoter was supposed to pay for it. And this was something called settlement. So what's interesting about this, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, is because my life is filled with real life weird experiences in dealing with business, in the places I least expected it. Here I am, on the road with Guns N' Roses at 19. I was supposed to be, I guess, in some college, studying, and here I am getting a really hard, education in terms of what went into the agency model in music, what went into the, how promoters work, how the managers work with bands, how the record companies work. So all of a sudden I started learning about how the music industry started to work, and that's how I got into that business. And as part of my history, which sort of led me to here to Causecast, was long story short, I went back to NYU to finish my degree after 7 years, which was interesting because I'm sitting in class and people are going around, so where'd you go to high school? Tell us about your story. And I'm 29 years old going, well, I was on the road with Guns N' Roses and Nine Inch Nails and Paul McCartney, and so everyone else coming up, they're like, hey. And I'm like, I'm talking about Atari, and they're talking about, other things. But anyway, I got a call at that moment, like the minute I graduated, I got a call from the actual lead singer of Korn, a guy named Jonathan Davis, and Jeff Quantnitz, who runs a company called The Firm. Now, The Firm at this point were becoming the largest entertainment company in all of Hollywood. So they were managing not only Korn, but at the time Limp Bizkit, the Dixie Chicks, Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese. They just bought out Michael Owitz's company, took on the debt to be able to inherit a lot of his managers and clients. So all of a sudden they're like, we need somebody in the East Coast. We want you to run Elementary Records and do East Coast operations and do A&R for this new label we're building. So it was like, we want to do this with you. We're like, okay. And literally, I was like, I'm going to take some time off. I needed a month, so I traveled to Costa Rica and just a little backpacking. And sort of the week I got back, it was September 9th, 2001. And it was the MTV Video Music Awards, and we were out with, I was having dinner with the band Stained in Lincoln Park, and they were performing in the show, and we all went out. It was really late, and I think it was like the whole next day, the September 10th, I think was radically hungover. But I remember on September 11th, the office where I ran, elementary in The Firm, which was where I had a very large loft in downtown Tribeca. I don't know how many people you've been to New York City or just sort of know the downtown area. But again, it was that morning, woke up, and that was, if you saw the video of the first plane hitting the building, that was my block. So this was south of Canal Street. It was, we were at Church and Walker, where we lived, and I woke up because I heard the plane overhead, and it was just, and it just shook the entire building. And I remember going out with my roommate at the time, who was had a video camera, and we were watching this plane. He's like, let's go down there. So what turned out to be just like, oh, this is just a plane hitting the building, we didn't know what was happening, turned into what became a series of events, which led me to think about how I was using my talents and what I was doing in the world. Being 3 blocks away when the first building collapsed and seeing, people dying and hearing that, and I still I'm getting chills just talking about it. It was a very emotional and tough thing to deal with. And then after that, we were able to, because I still had power and water after the buildings collapsed, martial law was declared. I don't know, certain people don't know certain things. So martial law was declared south of Canal Street. If you didn't have an ID, you couldn't walk around. So again, everyone in the neighborhood left, except a few people. So we would actually go to some of the local businesses and just try to keep them going. So we went into this bar called Puffy's Tavern, and there's this is like a few days later, like 3 days later, the entire Chicago Fire Department are in the bar. And we're like the only New Yorkers. So I was like, I'm buying all you guys drinks, because you guys drove your truck out from Chicago to be here to help rescue your brothers. And what I was doing at the time was snuck in with the Red Cross, was delivering food to different triages. So the Stuyvesant School was called First Triage. The American Express building was called the Second Triage, and then there was Ground Zero. So what we would do is we'd go back and forth from Stuyvesant School and set up a food triage here, and then go through whatever was the remaining, through all this debris, and forming these food triages next to the morgues and where the doctors were working. And all everybody wanted was coffee. I had pre-made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. No one wanted that. I had socks for the firefighters. Nobody wanted that. It was really just coffee, because all they wanted to do was stay awake to find, their brothers. So I kept passing out because of the air. I had one mask. The mask was later we found was only good for 30 minutes. That was what I used for a week to volunteer. And at a certain point, and after that I had to leave. My father had a stroke, so just to say it was like a really tough, 2 weeks for me personally. What was interesting is that because it gave me the time to reflect on what I was doing. And right after all this sort of happened, I had the opportunity to, after working with Michael and Sean Fanning for about a year, and starting Non Records and building this new model for artists. I took over the one of the clients I signed was the family of Aaliyah. I don't know if you already know Aaliyah, who died in a plane crash. So the family came to me and said, "Listen, we're just sort of getting out of a place of where we have it focused on the business. There's all these bootleggers running around. There's no website. There's no infrastructure. We want you to sort of set things up and have all the money benefit the Aaliyah Memorial Fund." And I was like, "Oh, what's a memorial fund?" Like, I heard about it, but I didn't know anything about philanthropy. I didn't know anything about 501c3s. I didn't know anything about charities, really. I was just like, okay. So I started, working with them, sort of just, doing some deals. And what was interesting is that Aaliyah's mother, Diane Houghton, had a track of Aaliyah singing at 16 years old. And we had the rights to put it out. So what I did was like, hey, what if we release this as a ringtone? Okay, I mean, ringtones were kind of big at the time, and they were able to charge $3.99 for a ringtone, where they were selling songs for 99 cents. So, it was interesting. You could actually sell a lot more ringtones, make a lot more money, and it was interesting. It was more money for less song, which was ironic. And of course, it was being throughout all the carriers. So what happened was that we did this deal. It was the first time ever that a deceased artist had an unreleased track released as a ringtone. So the press picked up on it, and it was pretty cool how that happened. And we probably made for the foundation about close to $600,000 from a ringtone, right? Not even a song, but it was like, wow, look at all what we can really do to, if you think about content, you're thinking about assets and how you can actually apply these to sort of like doing good in the world. We're like, oh my God, wow, what else can we do? So I see Jay-Z. I'm like, hey Jay, what's going on, man? And we're talking, and people would see me, they'd be like, oh, because I represented Aaliyah and Aaliyah's family, and they were very close to her, so I'm kind of like the Grim Reaper, unfortunately. Like, and they're like, oh, it's you. But I mean, they liked me and they liked Aaliyah, but it was very tough for them because they loved her so much. So it's like, Jay, I really need your help. What can you do a song for Aaliyah? And he's like, whatever you need. So Jay-Z does a song for the Aaliyah Memorial Fund, and you can get it online. It's actually free. I'll email you where you can get the link for it. But there was, again, it was like, then we were going to sell it online. We were going to actually, get all the profits and go to the charity. And then what happened was one of the major record labels said, no, you're using a sample. And we're not going to give you clearance unless you pay for it. I'm not going to say who the major record company was, but this was sort of the thinking. At the time, I think it was like Files Trading was bad. They were looking at sort of how they were losing a lot of money. And I'm like, but this is for charity. They're like, that doesn't concern us. Well, we don't care what it's worth. You need to pay for using that sample, and we want, $100,000, I think was the amount, which was ludicrous. Which was like just, and I didn't want to go back to Jay and go, can you redo the song? Because it was really a big part of this. It was a really big part of the song. So anyway, it didn't. So basically, what I did though is I said, I put it out there on the internet for free, and basically was like, if people want to make a donation, they can. And we did raise money. People were actually, the Leah's community were very responsive, and they would give $1. We would get checks from people in prisons. We would actually get checks from kids for like literally $1.75. And they're like, this is all the money I could spare. I mean, these boxes came. And all of a sudden I started realizing that there's this thing out there that people kind of want to tap into. And especially what was interesting was the prisoners of jails who loved Aaliyah, which was interesting because they would write so many letters to Aaliyah's family, talking about sympathy. I mean, and how they were just sort of reaching out to the family. So I wanted to give you a little bit about that background of how I got here, right? Which is that have to run a technology company, Causecast.org, which is, it does 3 things. And the last thing I want to do is like come here and kind of talk specifically about, what I think is going to work, because what I think is going to work, probably not going to work. And what I tell you is going to work, and what I have all planned out, and what our business, all our MBAs have, and all that stuff, that model will change in 3 to 6 months. I'll guarantee you that. What we started with Causecast, how the business model was built, and how the millions of dollars that we put into the company was, right now, it's nowhere close to what we perceived was. And we had some of the smartest people working on this project. Some of the best advisors in technology. My partner and the CEO, one of the founders, the founding, Ryan Scott he invented the double opt-in email process. So every time you actually want to click to get an email, you get an email back going, "You sure you want that email?" That's him. And he kept it open. And the reason why he did that was because he wanted to have competition. He believed that competition was good for the industry. And he started what would be the company known as Net Creations, which was the first ethical email marketing company. And he started with no VC, with 2 people, and it bloomed up to like 150 people within about 2 years. Was doing $50 million a year, and in 2000 sold it for an all-cash deal. And because he believed that email marketing could be ethical, even though everyone else saying, no, you should spam. Spam is, these are big companies going like DoubleClick, going, no, you're going to spam, or the bigger, that spam was sort of going to be the actual, what was going to be a standard model in the industry, and that was like he said he's going to fight against that, and even was able to lobby for laws to make sure that there was the anti-spamming law. He was involved with helping getting that passed into the government. So he keeps this patent open for everybody to use now. So when I met Ryan, it was ironic. I was actually on my way to India. I was actually moving to India. I was actually going to take a trip around the world for about a year, a one-way ticket. My friends shipped in to buy me a ticket. I had some money. I was going to travel to India, Nepal, Cambodia. I was going to teach, and it was like I never really got to experience the world that way. And I figured, what better time? I've had some success in life, and I'm just going to take some time and blog about it and report back. And the week before I was supposed to leave, I came to LA to speak at a conference for a company I was advising called Textango, who had a patent on selling music using cell phone billing. So, and that got me beginning to think, how can we use new technologies to actually help nonprofits and charities? And how do we solve the problem of giving online that has been so arduous with credit cards and getting people engaged online? It's such a big thing from like, hey, here's this video of somebody that needs help, and then all of a sudden, what's the percentage of people that are actually contributing, and why is it so low? Like, what's the big part? You're seeing something and you're inspired, and all of a sudden there's like, what are these barriers to entry? Why? So I was trying to work on. I was like beginning to think like, how do you really capture people immediately? How do you do it in a way that might not require, Mom, can I borrow your credit card to give $5 for this child in Africa? There's got to be a better way to approach it. So Ryan was like, he realized after trying to make and he's on the board of he's a big philanthropist on the board of a lot of charities. He realized that charities were like 5 years behind the times. I mean, they really were like, their websites were slow and janky. You couldn't really know. You didn't know where your donation was going. Like, the design was terrible. And why should people that are in the nonprofit space actually have to be, sort of experts in technology? They shouldn't. They should be focusing on what they do. So the idea of Causecast is like, what if we actually had all these charities in one place, and people can find out about them, and then people can make donations very easily, and the charities can have their own site, and if you wanted to really learn more and stuff. But what about a platform that was able to not only do 3 things? One, to be able to pull content from around the world, put it in one place, and make, whether it's aggregating that content or doing original content with the nonprofits or with the celebrities or leaders, putting it in one place, finding an easy way to then take action from that content, right? So whether it's text, video, Causecast developed, and I'll be able to. I wish I could show you the new beta site, but I can't right now. But the video player, the new one that we've developed, you'll be able to donate from. You'll be able to learn more. The nonprofits can program that. The leaders can program that. And really being able to make that division between inspiration and action much tighter. And that was part of our goal. So the second part of what Causecast does is a social network. And being a social network, we feel, and there's like, well, why are you doing a social network? It's like, I've got there's MySpace and there's Facebook, and Facebook just passed 300 million users and is now cash positive. It's fabulously successful, which is wonderful because for the first time in history in the internet, social networking has actually passed pornography as the number one traffic and what people are looking for. And actually that's a huge thing because for a long time it was 75% of what people were searching for on the internet. So now all of a sudden we have this shift, the paradigm shift, which is actually probably why I'm even standing here in this class with people that people have been putting together, because there's a shift of what's happening in the world. I think we're kind of starting to see, especially with the internet, that it's like things aren't okay. That you can get your, you can get your degree and you can kind of live your life and have your house and you'll be protected. I think we've seen from the financial crisis and politicians, there's this thing in the world that's happening, and that nobody is really kind of safe, and that leaves us very scared. Leaves us very worried about, no matter what you do, wow, change is such a weird thing, such a strange thing. I just feel if I have this, if I get this done, I'll achieve happiness. If I have this degree or this job or this, kids, and I have this what's been, kind of the American dream, which was sort of sold to I think my parents' generation. That didn't work out too well either, and so this leads us to why businesses, why people that actually go, hey, you can actually do well and do well for the world. So Ryan had this concept of Causecast, and how it started, and it was what it started, and what the screenshots he showed me before I went on my trip to India compelled me to go back home and and tell my Jewish grandparents instead of Varanasi I was going to Venice. And they're like, at least it's not India, So oh God. So if you're going to move away to another country, just tell them, like you're going to some third world country, then move to like LA, and you'll be okay. But again, it was what started as for people with, to building Causecast has now turned into an operation. Directly at any point of time, you're looking around 60 to 70 people are working on Causecast. We have about 18, soon to be 19 or 20 full-time employees. There is an army of about 25 interns that work at any given time at the company. There are PR firm lawyers. We have not taken a cent of VC, venture capital, for the MBAs. You don't know that, if you probably should go to the other school. But there's some journalism students here, I heard. But no VC, we haven't taken any VC, and our models evolved where we're actually going to be profitable. So we're like, wow, how did you do that? How did you actually, as a technology company that, especially a website that's not getting a ton of traffic. I mean, it's good, it's building, but again, we're not blowing the socks up because it's like, wow, who's looking for cause content? It's like, that's a little, wait, what are you talking about? I want entertainment, I want celebrity stuff, I want, I'm like news, like there's financial crises and there's issues with healthcare and there's politicians lying and like all this Kanye getting on stage with, and like I mean, why would I want to come to Causecast, So again, what started to happen was that when we started putting it out there and people were like, this is interesting. Like, what if you actually, instead of being self-righteous, you actually started doing things in a way which started talking about things and creating a dialogue, all right? What if you actually had a business that actually, instead of saying, no, you're wrong, you actually need to, you need to be engaged, or, I think it was a very interesting, so you guys should teach this. There was National Lampoon put out a magazine, and there was a gun to this dog's head. And it said, if you do not buy this magazine, this dog will die. All right? And the magazine sales for National Lampoon, for that magazine, shot up 70% for that one issue. All right? I use that analogy because I don't want to guilt you into actually making a donation going, if you don't donate $5, this kid is dead. Because what's just happened is that I've lost a donor that's associated with the brand of the charity. So we're looking out for the charity. So we provide we provide online strategy for whether it's celebrities like Jenny McCarthy and like Matthew Modine and the Huffington Post and Ariana Huffington to Maggie Q and to real life activists in the world like Aaron Cohen, who rescues underage sex slaves. He has a book out now called Slave Hunter. to Papajaho, who's CNN's Hero of the Year. He's 13 years old, battling leukemia, and started getting in his car with his mom, going door to door to sign up people to be bone marrow donors. Where do you find these people? It's like, wow. It's like, so all of a sudden, this is where the idea of Causecast started really getting exciting. So I'm going to play you a little, just right now, a little video from that Jenny McCarthy did for us when we first launched at what's called TechCrunch 50, which actually just had, which is at an anniversary. So this is real quick. Is there sound?
I hope so.
Nope, no sound. All right.
Who here knows how to work the sound? Will you come show me?
All right. Well.
Yeah, just come on up.
So anyway, Jenny, if anybody does anyone know about Jenny McCarthy? Does anybody know about Jenny McCarthy's nonprofit? Do you know what she's involved with in general?
Autism.
Autism. How do you guys know that?
She's been on like 10 times.
Okay, and she talks about that. Right, this is how she recovered her child from autism. But yet at the same time, a lot of people don't think that she's right. They believe that the issue with vaccinations is the debate is not really a debate. You have even people like Amanda Peake coming out supporting the vaccination industry. But yet she's saying, hey, we recovered my son from autism. So how's this possible? So basically, we wanted to have a place where this debate can exist online. We're not trying to take sides. We're actually we want people to tell their story. So, in a nutshell, what we did was when we started building out the Causecast business model, it was like, how does an internet company survive today? Like, how do we actually how do we look at what we're doing to have a valuable company? So.
They're coming to help us out.
Okay, that's no worries. It's but so talking about the existing business models and whether or not Causecast is going to be sustainable. When we first built the model out, we believed that it was going to be sustainable, but all of a sudden it changed. And how it changed was that people, companies, brands, celebrities, foundations started coming to us and going, "Wow, you guys are doing this in the right way." We actually we worked with the Office of Public Engagement at the White House. So Ryan and I flew out to the White House a couple times right after Obama took office, and they're like, "Listen, we're coming to you because we're going, hey, we need, it's like, you guys are the industry, you guys go do it. We can't tell you what to do. We don't even want to tell you what to do. You guys take initiative." So what Causecast did was that when United We Serve was announced, what did we do? We didn't get on a phone and we talked. What we did was we built 2 different sub-websites of Causecast. One was called UnitedWeServe.us, which provided just do-it-yourself opportunity. It didn't take a lot of time, didn't take a ton of resources, but we built all these do-it-yourself opportunities, how people can get involved locally in their community. And then the second thing we did was built a site called the Voluntour, which is actually you put in your email address just to get volunteer opportunities, and you have the opportunity to getting free tickets. And all of a sudden, all these bands started to come on board. Blink-182, Owl City, Linkin Park, Tool. All of a sudden, they're like, hey, we'll give you tickets to our shows. Yeah, sure. All just to get volunteer opportunities. I'm not saying you have to volunteer. I think that's the thing with the dog. It's more like, here's some volunteer opportunities. Learn about what's happening in your community. And so what happened was at that point, Ariana Huffington introduced some people to us because she liked what we were doing. And the next thing you know, we're building an entire platform for AARP called Create the Good, which just launched on September 11th. So AARP came to us and said, hey, we want to engage people with volunteerism. We believe that, and again, when you think of AARP, you think your grandma. You think your grandparents. It's like the minute you turn 50, it's like, oh my God, I'm really old. I mean, no one, and there's consensus, very few people like being that age and go, wow, I'm really now that old, and now I have to, I'm not young anymore, and so why should I have this association with AARP? So AARP's said, hey, we want to have a good relationship with boomers, their kids, and their kids' kids, and give them opportunities for them to be able to do things together. So they came to Causecast, and Causecast was able to, the technology and the tools that we already built, we were able to extend to them and build what would be their, the Create the Good campaign, and working closely with them in doing that. So all of a sudden, what we thought was just part of our model just evolved, just sort of evolved into another part of the business, which was like strategic development, becoming more of actually an agency in a way, a cause agency, because all of a sudden we kind of knew what we were talking about with social media. Like all of a sudden, Twitter came on the scene, right? How many people here use Twitter? How do you what do you use it for?
Staying updated on friends and organizations.
Okay. Do you get news from it?
Yeah.
Would you say that you use it more to get news aggregated to you by the individual, or do you actually use it just to keep up with, say, friends? Basically, I'm having a cup of coffee and life's good.
No. Kind of both, but
okay.
The former.
And eventually, at a certain point, do you think it's going to get old at hearing your friends going, "Hey, I'm here at the quad," and yay? I mean, I think there's a level of it, like, are we a level of narcissism sometimes? We're going to hit. I think that what we're going to do is we're going to evolve into a thing where this is just noise. I think we've already started to hit that, where a lot of this messaging and advertising and brand. It's just always like, I mean, when you come to a website, what ironic is actually. You look, I don't know if you know this, but there are studies where actually exactly where your eyeballs go, and it actually heats up the screen based on the movements of your eyes. So we're able to tell exactly color, we're able to tell exactly what's appealing and what's not on the screen. And most people's actually go bank left. I don't know if anybody knew that. But again, this is why when you see a lot of websites, a lot of the bigger content stuff stays on the left-hand side. So anyway, is it sound working? Or no?
Looks like.
Maybe?
What's
Is it working?
I will get it working.
Never mind. It's okay. So again, I guess one of the questions is can a business like Causecast and like I'm wearing Tom shoes. Anyone knows Tom shoes? Are you familiar with the model, the one-for-one model? What's interesting about that, we work closely with Blake, and Blake's sort of a close friend. And it's amazing how he discovered this model by accident. I mean, he just what he said is like, there's something in the world that needs to be corrected, and I'm going to correct it. And I believe that the tools of capitalism can be used to do that. Because really how businesses and governments change the people is through your dollar, the purchasing dollar. You will choose to support a brand or not based on what they do in the world. If you don't care, you don't care, and that's fine. That's we live in a free country, or what we think is a free country, or what you think is a free country. I mean, it's depending on how constricted you think is what's free. If you're looking at, it's really tough to get a job, and with inflation and medical, again, what is freedom to you? So that's based on your own individual ideology. But again, Tom Shoes was the one-to-one model. Is something that he felt that if you can actually connect to a child in need, that you're going to be more apt to buy these shoes than not. That there's going to be this connection in place. Can there be a connection between businesses and doing well, and also showing how they can do well? So again, Causecast, one of these companies that is able to we feel that with not only the brands that we're going to be involved with running cause marketing campaigns, but also with promoting. It's ready? Okay. With a lot of the again, people needing exposure in the right way within one community is what we're going to do. So you try it.
Give it a shot.
Okay, give it a shot. Okay. All right. So hold on.
No. Thank you.
All right. So let's go. By the way, Causecast is relaunching, and it should be out like in the new versions of the site. We actually, and I'll get into it in a little bit, but what we decided was right after we launched at TechCrunch 50, we realized that the platform was not going to be sustainable with how the business was going to evolve. So what we did was we actually started building a new site, and that was 11 months ago. So right now it's in closed beta, which there's a lot more tools for the nonprofits. We listen to the nonprofits. We listened to the brands, we listened to our existing users that started coming on and started building the platform that was going to make a lot more sense. That was not going to, it was going to be like the anti, sort of what, like, it was going to be something that was, you would be able to manage your cause life, and the charities can manage all their cause-related activities online in one place. So I'll just show you the video that Jenny did. So.
Hey guys, I'm Jenny McCarthy. In 2005, my son Evan was diagnosed with autism. And the day I got the diagnosis, I went home and felt confused, lost, sad, angry, and I didn't know which direction to go. So I decided to empower myself by going on the internet and trying to find as much as I could about help for my son. One of the places I found was an organization called Generation Rescue. And this organization taught me about the biomedical treatments that are recovering children from autism. After 1 year of implementing the biomedical treatment, Evan was recovered. I worked my ass off doing it, and now I'm so excited for something called Causecast. Yes, Evan?
After you talk, I'll give you a picture. After that, you say cheese, and then I'll chew.
Okay, you gotta wait until he's. Yes, but you gotta wait till he. But you gotta tell him. You gotta wait till I'm done, and then he'll say cut. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna keep talking. Can't talk yet. I was excited to hear about what Causecast was doing because it's a way of bringing the community together that might not know about different causes to one location. So using their tools for change, Causecast makes it easy for all of us, like Generation Rescue, to be in the forefront and work together to make a difference. So join me on Causecast, and together we will empower the world with hope, tools, and resources we need to make significant changes in the world. Thank you so much. Evan, you got that? Perfect.
So again, you can see how a video, as Jenny, and what's amazing about that video is that was just sort of in a way magical because she's talking about her recovering her son from autism, and here he is with the camera. He was the second director in that video. We actually some of that footage you see is his, And then I bought him a little flip cam. And then Jenny's like, he's addicted to it. Next thing you know, he's making videos and stuff. So, it's one of these things where exactly when people see something like that, what do you do? Do you want to potentially support Jenny? You want to support Generation Rescue? You want to look into more? How do you find out more information? So again, we feel by having one place where all this can live and promoting it adequately, using the social web. Now remember. There's a lot of, like I was saying, there's a lot of noise out there. Twitter is like walking in a room with a bullhorn and screaming at the top of your lungs. You're there with thousands of other people. And the fact is that people are going to follow and endorse and support brands and companies and people and individuals that are aggregating and vetting stuff for you. That's the new web. That's where we're going. It's about what exactly are you going to get from the internet, and how can actually it work for you in terms of people, whether it's Guy Kawasaki, who's going to give you some good tech information, or it's Steve Case, the founder of AOL, is talking about new business models, or it's someone like whether it's Causecast delivering cause news from around the world, or it's Huffington Post. Again, Twitter delivers that to you, and also in the form of people or companies. Causecast does this in the form of actually everything caused around the world that we'll be reporting that you can't find, that won't be on NPR or CNN or BBC. And if it is, or the New York Times, and if it is, you'll be able to link out to it longer than a day, because there's no reason why you should actually know about 2 million people that have been murdered in Congo, in Africa's longest running war, for something that's called conflict minerals. Who's familiar with conflict minerals? One, two, good. No one else knows what conflict minerals are? So 60 Minutes is doing a report now. Will be, I don't know when, I think hopefully it's going to be out in a month, of something called conflict minerals. Conflict minerals is the longest running war in Africa that has killed 2 million people, and millions more men and women have been serially raped because of minerals that go into your cell phone and your computers. The demand for technology is fueling the need for stuff that's going into every one of our personal, our gadgets, right? And so John Pendergast, who partnered with Don Cheadle and Not on Our Watch, has basically said, I'm going to educate people about conflict minerals. Now he got Emil Hirsch to join him. He's got a lot of these celebrities together, but still you won't know about it. It's not, unless 60 Minutes does this thing and someone talks about it again, it's like, wow, look at all these, how can you figure out what you're going to be able to do? So what Causecast is now going to be able to do is, like Twitter and like Facebook, you'll be able to customize not only the causes that you want to support, but maybe ones that you don't know. Inherently, we believe, and this is our credo, Causecast believes all causes are connected. It's not like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but there's something to the fact how factory farming is connected to a health issue, which is connected to an environmental issue, which is connected to an animal rights issue, which is then also now become an environmental issue. So, so basically everyone's is in the same business, right? If we know, for example, that the cattle industry is responsible for most of the methane gas, which actually is much more potent for global warming than CO2, then that's like sort of like the big thing with the green movement. It's like, drive a hybrid. And I'll tell you right now, a meat eater on a bike is like 10 times more dangerous than an actually vegetarian in a Hummer. And that's statistics. The United Nations came out with these stats. You don't know that. How do you know that? Where do you get that information? Again, Causecast, we believe the model that people are going to be looking for this stuff. And not only be looking for this stuff, they're going to want to be engaged with it. And they're going to, and more of the charities and the brands and corporate social responsibility and the CEOs are going to come in and go, hey, we're going to support these businesses that they're good. And what we're going to do is then we're going to actually crowdsource it. We're going to let people vote on how these businesses are doing. We're going to let them chime in. We're going to let the public be aware of actually, and let full transparency happen, because that's what the internet can be great at. It's interesting. You look at a lot of, when you looked at what happened in Iran, and you looked at what happened with, what happens in China, and you look at happening the liberties that we have here that sometimes we take for granted. But again, we have the ability to not only get information, but be able to have the ability to decipher what is really true about that information, how it gets to us. So.
Could you talk a little bit about the revenue model, where you got the money to develop this, and how you keep it going?
The revenue model the actual Causecast is funded by a round of angel investors that believed in that a site like Causecast can be viable because brands will run campaigns that will be able to support the model of an entire company putting out this type of content. Again, like I said, it's not exactly the first thing that people are looking for, but because of the relevancy and the importance that brands will pay to be involved in cause marketing, which is a business that went from $1 billion to $2 billion in a year in terms of the spend that companies are getting involved with. So it's a new emerging market, the cause marketing industry. How it's going to be sustainable, is that the second part of your question? As I said before, what we thought when we first built it is the business plan went right out the window. If you were to tell me basically like even VCs will tell you, you give a business plan with advertising being the number one revenue, and that's actually ironically, if there's 40 different revenue streams for a company, YouTube has one, right? And they still can't keep up. And basically any VC will throw the business plan right out the window, or put it at the bottom of the pile, if it's just advertising. Advertising is not sustainable, and the model's changing anyway. The banner ad, please. That was like 1996. We have to think about how effective we can be with advertising now. So what's happening is that we're looking at user engagement. So companies are now paying for the ability to have a user get involved with some of the charities and the nonprofits, celebrity, and brand, and then go maybe 1 to 11 steps of being involved in the process. So what Causecast is going to do is bring that 360 model, which is kind of from the music thing, and then of course Kiva does a great job of this, but showing exactly how you were involved, what your impact was, and here's the person the person or cause that was benefited from your interaction. And we believe that brands will pay and pay well for that to be involved. So we've already vetted all the nonprofits. We have taken on the liability to pay out those monies to them and have vetted them to the public, and have done that and built that process.
So even though this is a .org, it's a private company, and your investors expect a return on investment.
Even it's a .org. The .org is actually a marketing tactic. .org being, again, nobody really knows what they kind of think it's like nonprofit, but they don't really know that. So we took the risk of going, we're going to promote it as a .org and not a .com. Most people make the mistake and default to a .com. But the Causecast is a corporation. It is a business that's meant to be sustainable and if not profitable. And not only profitable, but potentially does it get acquired? And does one of the bigger companies that haven't been able to do this buy Causecast because they believe that there's a market that are looking at people that want to change the world. Does it become an acquisition target? Does it become do we start rolling up other companies and going, listen, you're not running your business effectively. We found a new way to do it. Let's start acquiring other companies that are in this space and be able to create one large platform with users that will be able to for people to interact. And I think the interesting part about this is, can capitalism be used to create social good? And we believe yes. Not only believe yes, but we're putting our money where our mouth is and going that people will support us on this journey. And having the numbers and the nonprofit partners and the celebrities and the brands to be able to prove that. So now, we're launching some big partnerships soon with the Huffington Post. We've already been, as I said, we launched for AARP, the Create the Good platform, and we're actually launching a texting service where people can actually make a donation using their cell phone bill. So with 100% pass through to the actual charity. Part of the business model is that because it's we were able to get the carriers to waive all their fees. We're still, in order to process that to the ASP, we're able to take a little bit of that percentage. So Shakira is launching it with next month with us, and again, we'll be able, the small transaction fee will be able to cover our costs, and employees that are actually handling it for it. So it will eventually be able to give back to Causecast if again it scales and we have a lot of charities and a lot of celebrities start using it, and it's within a year or two. So these are these things that we're able to kind of create and sort of keep the business going. But again, I sorry I talked for a while. I thank you for having me here. I hope it was educational for everybody, and I was able to. But I'm going to open up for questions. But thank you.
How did you go about selecting your team to get started, and what were kind of the strengths that you brought to the table, and how did you fill the gaps of things that you weren't so good at, or skills that you didn't have?
Good question. We started by with the initial team of getting great referrals from people, going, you need to meet so and so, or when we started to find a need of what we needed, the company needed to build, oh wow, we needed an office manager because we need somebody to run the office. And we started. We didn't. It was like in the business plan, it didn't get built out exactly what we thought we needed. We allowed it. We were able to be flexible enough to go within a month-by-month basis to 3 months, and then 6 months. Who do we think we're going to need? And then we would fill it based on that need. Because what happens, especially with tech startups, is that you staff because of what you think you need, and someone's just sitting around kind of twiddling their thumb because you were 6 months late with development. So we wanted to basically make sure when we hired that we were able to make sure that person had a role that they were able to significantly play, that we didn't have excessive burn at that point. We hired internally, so a lot of people actually were interns that worked for us, and then we're like, you're doing great at this, continue on. You want a job? So we empowered people by working at Causecast, and then we were saying, we have a saying at Causecast, which is called manage up, that we don't treat people like children. We believe that you're capable of doing things and being able to be free thinkers, and just with a bit of guidance from what you need, that you'll be able to come and problem solve. It is a lot of pressure for a lot of people, especially if they're coming out of school or they have a couple of years and don't really have the experience. But there's no better way to get experience than to do it. Ryan did it, and I did it. And then sort of what we do is we surround ourselves with people that know things that we don't. You surround yourself with better, smarter people. I think I'm smart. Nowhere near as smart as my lawyer, or nowhere near as smart as my, some of the PR people because of PR. Nowhere near as smart as people that handle the grassroots marketing efforts of the company, or developers. Again, I know enough, but I don't know what they know. So what I do is I empower them to make the company better. If that answers your question.
Okay. What's your vetting process like for selecting organizations that will work with you?
Good question. The vetting process is we look at their financials, their 990s. We look at what they're doing on the internet and see if they've embraced social media or understand it. Are they going to be easy or hard to work with? We look at GuideStar. We look at Charity Navigator. We look at what their, I guess it would be what work they've been doing in the field and how they could be able to utilize our strategic thinking and our tools to be able to help them. We have right now on the platform 60 vetted nonprofits. There's about 150 that are in queue. And what we're going to be doing in the next version is that there are going to be ones that are featured, but we're opening up the entire platform. And also Causecast takes 0% of the transaction. So we believe that part of our model, because our model is not to make money off of nonprofits from online transactions. So there'll be a credit card transaction fee, which hopefully we'll get a brand to sponsor, but we'll take 0% of that transaction. And we believe that if charities take our fundraising widget, which will be, people can actually donate through that, and the charity can actually be like, oh, do I go through Convio, Network for Good, or Causecast, and you're able to see, kind of like Orbitz, who you want to donate from. You can choose to go to your donation through, maybe any of these different platforms. So we believe that actually people might want to donate to Causecast because, I'll give you an interesting statistic, and I'll keep the companies and the nonprofits confidential. But when the tsunami happened, one very large company that handles financial transactions for nonprofits reaped about a $50 million profit. All right? $50 million profit. Gave zero of that back. That pisses me off. Sorry, I'm a New Yorker, I'm a little blunt. But it pisses me off, and it pisses Ryan off, we want to do something about it. So what we're going to do something about it is we're going to actually build something and go, all right, we don't care if you think this is going to work or not. We don't even think we think that charities are going to want this, and we're going to be transparent about it. And if you want to fight, let's fight. Let the free markets decide, as we say, and the free markets will support the companies that actually people want to use their platform. If you want to make a donation on Causecast because we take 0%, you think it's better, then great. If you don't, you don't. Again, you just have to build the best infrastructure, and hopefully the market will respond to it. So that's what we continue to do, and we spend every day figuring out with our team, how do we make it better? What can we do for nonprofits that they're not already doing? Causecast, and this will be, is this going live? It's not live. I haven't announced this. So Causecast will be the first company that will be able to provide home phone billing to nonprofits. It will be the only company that's allowed to do this. We're going to be in 143 million households in the United States with no credit card. So you can actually take your home phone bill and make a donation up to $500 a month on monthly. And we're going to build that into our platform. No one else has that. It's an experimentation. AT&T, Verizon, all these big companies waive their fees to do that. So we started something called Charity Conference Call, which actually pays out. This is interesting. You guys are going to like this. So you can make a conference call. It's like a free conference call, but instead of money going to me, it goes to charity. How does this happen? Well, it's kind of like telecom pork. Seriously, it's pork for the telecom industry. So in order to keep jobs in certain states, the big carriers pay a fee to drive traffic to local states. So the Causecast conference call goes to Minnesota. Minnesota pays a finder's fee for the inbound call traffic. Inbound call traffic goes to Charity Conference Call, right, for us for the finder's fee, and you're able to support 6 nonprofits through all your conference calls. It's half a penny per minute per user. So if you actually have now an hour, so Shakira, I could put a Shakira concert online for an hour, she can talk for an hour, and people can call in. And if I have 50,000 people listening for 1 hour on the call bridge, we just raised some significant money just by doing nothing. So again, this is another idea of just like what I like to do in my spare time. So it's a good. How do you provide these solutions to again to modern problems and being creative about it? So I'm sorry I strayed from answering the question of vetting, but I just wanted to get a little bit more into how we're trying to solve some of these problems and then making it available to all nonprofits. Yes.
How do you benchmark and measure your social impact?
Good question. Well, there's a couple things. One is traffic, which is, of course, if an article gets read or it gets dug, or if people start, we have an entire little, it's 5 people in the social media department. What they do is able to track through different articles how many times it gets, whether it's stumbled or dug or read. We're able to we quantify that, how many views a video gets. So I'll give you an example. We did a video for focus features for Harvey Milk when the movie came out, and it was very much like Harvey's speech with a lot of text. And Perez picked it up, and eventually got close to 1 million views. And people were like, "Oh my God, you did that video?" So I can say, yeah, it was successful as a viral video because we had close to 1 million views for a video that took us 10 minutes to make. and we've been spending like a year plus doing this thing, where some of the other videos have nowhere near that sort of impact, right? And I can go, hey, we were able to raise $20,000 from this initiative or this article. Again, there's some hard numbers, some really hard quantifiable numbers, and then there's the intangible, which has to do with awareness. So I think that what we've begun to work on is being able to. There's a process that we filed a patent for that I really can't discuss so much, but it has specifically for volunteerism numbers, and then of course for how many people, whether they donate or take some sort of action online. Now the problem with this, especially with the donation, is that social media is still not good for donations. For the amount of people that are online, it's pretty much like a failure. And everyone's out there now talking about their cause. Actually, I think it's with everyone has cause overload. To be quite honest with you, if another friend, because I get because I support all these causes on Facebook. It's like I go crazy because I get an email update every time the charity sends out, and they don't know how to use these tools properly. So what happens is every day I get 20 emails from nonprofits talking about polar bears are dying, the world's ending, cleft lip, go down the line. And the thing is, I'm kind of having a little fun with this because the fact is that I'm showing you how numb we're going to all get if you don't use these things properly. So we're trying to work out a way to what is really quantifiable metrics that be able to go back and go, 1 million people watched this video, we were able to raise X amount of money for donations, it got retweeted X amount of times, it got stumbled, it got dug. Some things aren't just going to go. I mean, some people just don't want to listen to doom and gloom, or they're not going to want to care about floods in India. So how do you actually take something like that happens in India and actually put it in a way where people can actually feel some sort of engagement? So we're working on trying to come up with the best ways to show not only our partners but also brands in the space, the celebrities, the impact of what they're doing online and how it makes a difference, whether it's specific, quantified, whether it's a dollar amount, or that so many people read this article. So hence the Huffington Post partnership, where we're able to we're able to get millions of views on something, but it might get 5 retweets, or it might get 10 comments, or 100 comments. Again, I don't know. It just depends on the type of content. But how effectively we do will be looking at a lot of those numbers and being able to learn from them very quickly and educate the nonprofits and educate the people that are involved in the campaign how they're going about working with those numbers to be able to improve them. So, a lot of places it's business as usual, and I don't like that. I mean, it's kind of like there's all these issues, and if we can move the needle a little bit, then we've all done our job. I think a lot of this stuff's solvable. I think it's solvable with people's money. I think it's solvable with people support brands. Brands will support issues. You can solve. There's a lot of things that we can solve just by changing our habits and what we know. You know what I mean? I mean, the environment's one thing that people know about, but still don't. Some people just don't do things about it. We're very hard. We resist change. I don't understand why, because everything is change. It's weird. It's strange. Yes?
Yeah, how much of the future success on the site do you feel will depend on celebrity interaction?
Good question. I think it's going to be it's less than what we initially anticipated. Part of our original business model was that celebrities drive traffic. So let's talk business. Celebrities drive traffic, and so Jenny would be there's an A-list, B-list, C-list, D-list in terms of actually what people are, not in terms of where they are in the celebrity list, but in terms of actually how many, this Jennifer Lopez, what does that mean for traffic? And you could actually quantify how many people are searching for Jennifer Lopez, or how many people are searching for Jenny McCarthy, or how many people are searching for Matthew Modine or Maggie Q or whatever. And then we quantify that by based on how many people are looking for them, and then what is that percentage of people would be actually caring about the cause that they would do. And then we took that number and we actually said this is actually how people are going to be looking for that information. So and then we thought that was going to scale up with the more celebrities that came on board, and then we'd get more traffic would mean more ad revenue would mean more dollars would mean more staffing and better valuation of the company. So we, again, we thought about the celebrity interaction because, again, people were like, well, you're just a celebrity website for celebrities to preach what kind of causes there are, which are going to just help their own brand. And, we try to be very careful about that because there are a lot of people that will just show up at an event you know, and like, oh, they care about this, they care about that. I think it was, anyone see Bruno? There was a thing where he's like, you know, what's hot? And they're like, oh, well, children in Africa are hot. You know, this whole thing where he was going to these charity advisors who are going, well, he wants to, and it's the whole thing is that he needs to have a charity song. In the end, of course, he sings with Bono and Elton John. But it's like it was, you know, this thing about like, you know, how do you know, is it for real for them, or is it something that is, you know, or people just looking for press stuff? So when we got into it, we thought it was going to be much more powerful than and much more important than what it is currently. So we've actually removed leaders on the new site. We've taken it off. People are just going to be people, and it's going to be what they're doing in the world, and actually, and let the crowd, and let the public comment and vote them up, and judge them for who they are, as opposed to putting people on a pedestal. So we learned that, and we made the change appropriate in the appropriate way. Anything else? Any other?
Last question.
How much do you want to see Causecast on other different platforms? Like, obviously, there's a ton of users on Facebook and Twitter. How much do you want your content being pushed to those? And do you see that as being able to help build Causecast as far as your users or helping the actual interaction on the site?
Yeah, I mean, again, good question. I think that of course we want to use, you know, people that are on these platforms. Remember, these are tools. I mean, they're not. Like, at the end of the day, Facebook is a great tool for you to be able to manage your sort of social life and your calendar. Twitter is a good way to aggregate news and information, following sometimes when your friends are having a coffee. But Causecast, when you hit this sort of saturation point of noise, what's going to happen is the Marshall Mcluhan factor is what I call it. Are people familiar with Mcluhan? No one's familiar with Marshall Mcluhan? Oh, I know you are. Everyone should read Understanding Media here. Marshall Mcluhan basically predicted the internet before there was the internet. And he came up with Timothy Leary and Ram Dass and talked about how, you know, what Seth Godin talks about and Malcolm Gladwell talk about now modernly about tribes and how things are kind of forming. As we become a global society, it's about our interests that draw us together. So within Facebook's like this. It's another planet. It's like one of the most populated countries in the world. Facebook. So again, people are going to be, we're going to be looking to get involved with causes, and as we've seen a rise in social consciousness and corporate social responsibility, a platform like Causecast becomes very appealing. That expounds upon that experience, where you're able to do some of the things you do that you can't do in Facebook because that's just the construct of the platform. It's not built for that. Causes is an actual app on the Causecast platform, but it can only do so much. There's certain rules that can be bent, and there's it can only go so far. So Causecast, we're really taking it to the next level. That you're going to actually come from Facebook, you're going to come from MySpace, you're going to come from it, and you're going to look for a much cleaner, better, more engaging experience with people that are doing very similar things in the world that you want to interact with, or causes that you didn't know were happening, and or companies that you didn't know what they were doing. So that gets driven by content. Content's the driver. The user experience is another driver. So there's three metrics. There's traffic, there's the user experience, and from the traffic and the user experiences, then you can be able to generate the third, which is just the revenue. So we feel that those things from those platforms will be able to build organically what will be a platform that people would want to use. Because again, there's an interesting photo, and I'll end, of the top 20 websites and what they started when they launched and what they look like, and it was really funny. So we're just gonna do the best we can. We're gonna listen. We got a great team of people that are looking to really change the world and believe they can use their whether it's their skill, whether they have an MBA. We just hired someone from USC business school to do business development for us right out of school, and I said, here, we need models, build them. We have these deals to be done. Come on, let's do it. And again, you just jumped right in, and he's learning and learning about how we're approaching things again, because there's, you can have knowledge and you can have wisdom, but once you do it, individuals are individuals. So what we do is we believe in the individual and giving them the opportunity. Everyone has the ability to shine. You know what I mean? Certain people will step up to the plate, and Causecast is a place that we allow that to happen because we're not just doing one thing, we're doing something we believe is something special. And people that really fight to stay, to work at Causecast, I'll end with this. We had an intern that actually now works with us now, who does product, he was an intern, he worked at Deloitte, he was making 6 figures a year. He drove 2.5 hours a day to work at Causecast for free for 3 months and begged and fought and worked 15 hours a day, 7 days a week to force us to hire him because he wanted to change his life and he believed that actually by changing his life he could actually even change the world because the world needed to be a better place and he wanted to marry his girlfriend and he felt that he just wanted to do something. And I was just like, okay. So, anyway. Thank you.
I met Brian at a fundraising event that Causecast was hosting for an organization called I Live Here, and across a dark room I shouted, "Would you come talk to our students?" And Brian shouted back, "I would be honored." And I'm sure that everyone joins me in saying that we are honored to have you here today, and we really want to thank you very much for your time and wish you the best of luck in your organization. Everyone sign up for Causecast.
I hope everyone got something out of this, and that again I look forward to seeing you all again. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So today we talked about the topic, can social media save the world? Our next Lunch and Learn is October 21st, and we'll be looking at can organic farming change the world? Please take your cup with you. That's yours to keep. Trash in the back. And thank you guys very much for coming today.